Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Christine Allen and I'm the Chief Executive Officer with Council on the Ageing WA, or you might know us as COTA. This event this morning is being live streamed right across Western Australia. So welcome to our guests, all of you, from Port Hedland to Esperance, from Geraldton to the Wheatbelt, and all of you in the room today. Welcome to Let's Talk Scams. This event is supported by Auslan, so Diane and Donna will be interpreting for us today. Before we start the proceedings this morning, I acknowledge that we are meeting here on the land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, but also across Western Australia. You are joining us from the many lands of our traditional owners. Wherever you are, on behalf of all of us, I pay our respects to Aboriginal elders past and present, and I'm sure we would all agree what a privilege it is for us to be sharing this beautiful land we call home with our First Nations people. This morning, we are honoured to have the Honourable Kim Beazley AC, Governor of Western Australia, as our special guest. The Governor is also the patron of COTA WA, and he's also proud to be a Western Australian senior. We also have a representative from the Minister's Office, the Honourable Kyle McGinn, MLC. Now this week is WA Seniors Week, and it's also National Scam Awareness Week. And most of us either know or have been the victim of a scam. And that's the reason why we're all here today. So COTA has partnered with Bankwest and the state government through Department of Communities to bring this event to older West Australians. And for those of us who are not able to join us today, this event is also being recorded to ensure that we can reach as many people as possible in Western Australia. This morning we're going to hear from the Governor in a welcome address. We're also going to hear from Dr. David Cook, who is a cybercrime expert from Edith Cowan University. Some of you may have seen a presentation from Dr. Cook before. If you haven't, you're in for a treat. And we're also going to hear from Audrey Pagemon from Bankwest. And I really want to acknowledge Bankwest for their generosity in supporting this event, because it literally would not have happened had they not come on board as a sponsor. And they're very keen to support particularly older people in our community. And I also want to acknowledge Department of Communities, who provide funding that enables us as COTA WA to do some of the important work we do as the peak body for older people in Western Australia. So Council on the Ageing WA, or COTA WA, has been around since 1959. And our role is to represent the interests of anyone over 50 years of age. So when we were first established in 1959, we were called the Old People's Welfare Society. So in 1959, if you were 50, you were considered to be old. So hands up if you think you're old. No, Governor, that's not the answer we want. Now, we know that scammers are very clever because they have managed to con us out of over $230 million so far this year. And of course, the biggest cohort is people over the age of 65. And men, I'm sorry to tell you that you're losing slightly more money than women. And they know that we're all being encouraged to go online, to do our banking, to do our shopping, and even to do our socialising. Now, I don't know about you, but I use a computer every day of my life in my role, and I still don't consider myself to be highly competent when it comes to using a computer. So hands up if you're confident that you will never be scammed. Okay, there's not a hand in the room, hence we're all here today. So my hope is that by the end of this session, you'll feel a little more comfortable and confident in how to recognise a scam and how to protect yourself. But it's now my great pleasure to introduce to you the Honourable Kim Beazley, Governor of Western Australia and patron of COTA WA. Please welcome the Governor.
Thank you very much, Christine, and can I too acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation on whose lands we are meeting, and can I also acknowledge the many others and the many lands now of Western Australia that are under native title, and pay my respects to the elders of the Whadjuk people, but also the elders of the various Aboriginal nations around the state. We don't know it really here in Western Australia, but the truth is this: we are the native title state. In terms of the two, what I think de facto treaties that have been signed with the Noongar people and then with the Southern Yamatji, add that to the successful native title claims further north and out into the desert, and we're now about 75% of Western Australia is under native title, which constitutes at the moment about 90% of native title in Australia. So we are unquestionably the native title state. People in the East tend to have a different view about Western Australia. They ought to smarten up. Can I also acknowledge Kyle McGinn? Good of you to come, Kyle, and representing Don Punch here. It's a topic in this week which is of absolutely critical importance. Falling, as Christine said, both WA Seniors Week and National Scam Awareness Week. We are here to talk about scams, which is a serious issue for all of us, we seniors. Welcome to you all, and as I've already said, a particular welcome to our friends further afield. As patron of COTA, and as an obviously West Australian senior myself, the subject of scams against seniors is totally concerning. Recently, I visited the WA Police Technology Crime Services Division, whose role is investigating serious and complex cyber or online crimes. They informed me that cyber criminals are actively targeting seniors aged 60 and older at a rate more than double that of any other age group, with overall scam cases massively on the rise. It's very difficult for the police to prosecute these criminals due to the secretive nature of scammers, many of whom all too often essentially have impunity via distant borders. The WA Police work closely with the Australasian Consumer Fraud Task Force, the international police organisations, to track and hunt down those scammers. But unfortunately, in many cases, it is too late to recover any lost funds by the time they're caught. While I cannot fault the police for their tremendous work, their challenge is very, very difficult. I did, as I said, had a pleasure and fascination to visit that police unit. They are well resourced. They do work very hard at this. This is not some joke show from their point of view. It is a major task that the police identify, and we are blessed in this state with a truly brilliant cyber security centre, effectively, at Edith Cowan. It's the peak of the nation, best in the country, and the police access that massively. They do their very best to get that a performance up which protects us. My hope is that in the future, international diplomacy will become a more effective tool in the fight against cybercrime. And the countries will work closely together to identify and prosecute scammers. We must not see a normalisation of foreign safe havens for these crims, and apathy by many of those host governments, some of whom are themselves hostile to us. Apathy is one way of putting it. I would put it slightly differently in most circumstances: culpability. Culpability in regard to a large number of those governments who, if not pursuing it officially, have corrupt officials who make a great deal of money out of it. In 2020, people aged 50 and older in the US lost an amazing $1.8 billion to online scams, according to a new FBI study. And those numbers are unquestionably underreported, as the FBI believes many seniors are ashamed to reveal they've been scammed. Senior citizens are prime fraud targets because they tend to be trusting and polite, according to security experts. They also usually have financial savings, own a home, and have good credit. A recent Australian Competition and Consumer Commission survey found 48% of people scammed were contacted via a phone call, with 22% of people being contacted via email, 15% by text, 7% by internet, and 8% on social networks and forums. To tell you the truth, I was quite surprised by those figures when I looked them up, because I would have thought that percentage on social networks would be higher. Phone calls, that means the phone calls must be of a particular intimidating character, I suspect, or a very smooth character which establishes plausibility. So, in fact, about half the people are being scammed by old technology. Online dating and romance scams are also increasing. These often take place through online dating websites based overseas. But scammers also use social media or email to make contact. These scams are also known as catfishing. In 2021, Australians over 55 lost $15 million to catfishing, often devastating retirement plans. Scammers can use your information and pictures to create a fake identity or to target you with a scam. Be wary of requests for money. Never send money or give credit card details, online account details, or copies of important personal documents to anybody you don't know or trust. I would like to quickly acknowledge ScamWatch, a free, trusted government website which is run by the ACCC and lists the types of scams to watch out for. You can also report scams and get advice or help if you have been a victim of a scam. Seniors are recommended to visit ScamWatch regularly to help recognise and avoid exploitation. We all like to think that it couldn't happen to us, but the criminals are getting smarter every year. The best advice from experts is to choose your passwords carefully. Keep your mobile devices and computers secure, and review your privacy and security settings on social media. These can be the most powerful tools in battling fraud and making sure you are not a victim. Remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Furthermore, if someone threatens you with a serious fine or imprisonment via phone or online and asks you to pay a bill or invoice using gift cards or credit cards, please be mindful that the Australian government does not ask or expect payment that way. Well, it's a pleasure to join you today. I hope you come away with a better understanding of how you can protect yourself from scams. You've got some great speakers to hear from, so I'm off. Well, actually, I'm not. I'm going to listen to a couple of the speakers because I need the advice myself, but they're going to be much more interesting than me. I declare you open.
Thank you, Governor. Now, hands up if you are using technology, if you're using a mobile phone, a computer, if you've got Facebook, if you've got a laptop or... Okay, so that's most of the people in the room and probably most of the people who are watching us here this morning. Before you leave today, we have a morning tea, of course, but we're also going to provide the people who are here in person today with a Kota bag, and the contents of the bag you'll see on the two tables beside me. So there's lots of information for you to take away that will keep you safe. So we're going to start with our first presentation now, and it's Dr. David Cook. So David is a lecturer with the School of Science, a member of the ECU Security Research Institute, a member of the Australian Centre for Cyber Security Excellence, and a fellow of the Australian Computer Society. So his research activities include counter-terrorism, money laundering, senior citizen security, social media, and crime prevention. So he's certainly a guru and a cybercrime expert. So I'm going to hand you over to David now. Thanks, David.
Thank you, Christina. Can I acknowledge the Honourable Kim Beazley, the Honourable Kyle McGinn, Christina, and all of the rest of you, because today is a very interesting moment. We don't often get to talk about this and point out so eloquently, as our Governor pointed out just now, the fact that whilst the police do a fantastic job on keeping everybody safe, there's one small area where we're not winning yet, and that is cybercrime, and in particular it's cybercrime for older people. Now, I spend a little bit of time on the dark web. Anyone heard of the dark web, the dark net? It all sounds very dark. And one of the things about the dark web is it's quite difficult to get there. There's no web address. You can't just type in www.darkweb.com.au and get there. It's not like that. And when you get onto there, and by the way, I'm not suggesting for a moment you should try and get on the dark web, but when you get on there, if you do, one of the things that you'll find straight away is it's full of criminals or people pretending to be criminals or people trying to pursue activities that sound distinctly criminal. There are people on the dark web who will buy and sell guns. They will buy and sell weapons. They will buy and sell people. They'll buy and sell money. They'll buy and sell organs. They will buy and sell all sorts of things. But one particular area is that they will buy and sell information about you. Your information is incredibly valuable on the dark web. Often, I'm sure if I ask, people in here would agree, you say, how did they get my phone number? How do they get my email address? How do they know how to target me in the first place? So I'm going to start this very importantly by asking about some things. Now, when I spend time on the dark web, and I don't spend a lot of time, but I monitor the chat rooms, and they have a term for you. They call you GBBs, Golden Baby Boomers, all right? So before I go any further, I just want to check, quick show of hands, if you're not born in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s or 60s, you're in the wrong room, time to discreetly leave. Or if you're on radio, turn the dial down so the rest of us can stay. So it's a really important question. I wonder, and I'm putting it back onto the audience, about whose information it is. Do we give too much information away? Hands up those people on Facebook. Now, one of the things about Facebook, and I'm on Facebook as well, but one of the things about Facebook, it's two-sided. You either love it because you've got pictures of your grandchildren or pictures of all sorts of things, it's fantastic. But we hate the drivel, the chat, the byproduct of it. But the most important thing is that whatever you do or say, if you post a picture, if you post some text words, anything on there, that is scraped up by the algorithms that drive the Facebook machine, and that's used to try and sell product to you. So have you ever noticed, I had a picture taken of me the other day. I was playing golf. Now, I'm not a golfer, but I had a picture taking. And after that, the next day, on the column next to my Facebook feed, adverts. Would I like to buy golf clubs? Would I like to go on a trip, on a golf tour? Right, those are the sorts of things. And you might have the same experience, depending. That was just a picture. It didn't even say, David's good at golf, because I'm not. Okay. Have a think about what you put on there. Because remember, with Facebook, the way that when you joined Facebook, how much did it cost you? Can you remember? Nothing, not a cent. Nothing at all. Because you're not actually the customer. You are the product. It's your information that's actually being sold, which generates the profits that Facebook do for the Facebook. So remember that. That's an important part of how we do it. We share too much information. Quick story about my wife. She won't mind me telling you this. She went to a shopping centre a while ago and she bought a raffle ticket. Now, it was a raffle for a BMW, and it was a Surf Lifesaving Club selling a BMW. She thought, great, $2, I'll buy a ticket. On the ticket stub, she wrote name, address, phone number, email address. And what she didn't take particular attention was, right down the bottom in fine print, you'd need a magnifying glass to see it, is the part that says, by filling this information, you agree to share this with a third party. Now, I discovered that. One of the interesting things about this is this particular Surf Lifesaving Club, and we've got no problem with surf lifesaving, that's fantastic, but my wife's not really interested in surf lifesaving. She just wanted to win a beamer. And so, of course, she was interested in that. In fact, and so one of the things about this is that the Lifesaving Club sells the ticket stubs after the winner's been declared, and a third party will pay good money. In fact, in some cases, up to the value of the actual BMW, the prize. So it's cost neutral. But it's not cost neutral to us because in tiny little bits and pieces, the internet is scraping information that you've given away for free. Think about what we do. And can I suggest next time you buy a raffle ticket, do you have to give that information? I wouldn't do more than saying David and perhaps a mobile phone number, but I don't need to say David Cook. I don't need to give you my address or my email address. I don't need that. And I can look it up on the internet or I can look it up in the newspaper and say, here's the winner of the raffle. That's what we should be doing. But we're too, and particularly older people, we're so kind, we love to share information. Now, the internet will out you, whether you say the truth or not. So, for example, one of the things I noticed is that I had a friend of mine who put some information. He didn't want to say who he was. So instead of actually saying his real name, he said his name was Vladimir. Occupation, secret agent. Place of residence, Monaco. But the internet outs you because he turned 60. And what did it say? Oh, happy birthday, Peter, not Vladimir. How's things in Port Hedland, not Monaco. And so it gave your date of birth, your name, your destination, all that information because he pretended to be somebody on Facebook. And all of his friends knew exactly who he really was. The internet will out you, whether you like it or not. So that's important to understand that. We share too much information. Is that right? We share too much information. And the other thing about that is sometimes when we do information, we let people know by means that we're a little bit too polite. Hands up the people who are grumpy. Could I get the grumpy people to put your hands up? Keep your hands up, please, for a moment. I want the rest of you to look at these people. These are the people that you should turn to. They often have a short fuse. They're very, very good at dismissing people. And those are the qualities you need in today's time to actually handle people because the rest of you are too polite. I had a lady who came to me and she was really distressed. She had all these passwords and she couldn't understand. She said, I've got too much, I can't remember my passwords. By the way, is that anyone here can't remember their passwords? I'll give you a tip at the end of this talk about how to remember passwords. But she couldn't remember them. And I said, so what have you got? She said, well, and before I'd done that, I'd seen her Facebook page and she had a lovely cat called Fluffy. Can any of you guess her password? Here's the thing about passwords is we often choose passwords by choosing things that we love or care for. So often it might be that we care for a pet. Does anyone have a pet's name for a password? Yes. We won't out you all, but there's a few hands going up. Does anyone have a password that uses someone that they love, such as a favourite granddaughter or grandson? Yes, okay. Or even boyfriend or girlfriend or second boyfriend, I'm not quite sure. These sorts of things. But we choose our passwords sometimes with the wrong thing in mind. So I'm going to help work out on that. That's important. But we're always so jolly polite. And some of us get different emails from different places. Does anyone get spam emails? Anyone had a spam email? All right, so a spam emails we don't want. But we get ones that are almost deliciously exciting. So you might get an email saying, you've won £1 million in a lottery. Anyone had that one? Yes, it's a common one. But in actual fact, when the moment you get to the bit where it says pounds, you go, gosh, this Probably not me. This isn't real. Okay, yes. Anyone had quite often we get messages from people saying, hello, I'm in Africa, I've got $20 million, I'd like to share that with you, I just need your bank account details. And anyone had those? Yes, okay. Does anyone have a Nigerian lover on the go? I wonder if you just put your hand up discreetly, move to the back of the room. Yes. Okay, so these are the things we're faced with. This is the hard part. I saw a lady respond to one of these emails, because when we get emails, a small percentage of us, because we're polite, will respond to emails. So something like 10 or 11% of people actually get sick and tired of spam emails, and you respond. I saw this lady's email. It said, Dear Jonathan Goodluck, thank you very much for your kind offer of $18 million. Kindly stop sending me these emails. I don't wish to receive them anymore. Please stop sending. Yours sincerely, Joan Smith, Victoria Park. Now, there never was any $18 million. The scammer simply wanted the last 4 words of that email. Joan Smith, Victoria Park. That's all they wanted. They'd sent the email to thousands of people, and now they get, what do they get back? They get an email address, which in this case was JS for Joan Smith, js@telstrabigpond.com. They know that it's Joan Smith, not John Smith, so they know it's a female. They know they're in Victoria Park, so they know where they are. And more importantly, they know that they're of a certain generation. Think of the words she used in the email. Kindly stop sending these. Please stop sending. So can I get a quick show of hands? How many people studied computing in primary school? Just the Honourable Cole McGill. Okay. But one of the things that you did do in primary school was you learnt how to write a letter. Can you remember? And you learnt all of the yours truly, yours faithfully, yours sincerely, how to preface that to make sure whether it was a business letter or a person. You actually practiced that many, many times. You're experts in that. And one of the problems is that when you send emails back to people, when you send text messages, you can't help but be polite, with the exception of the grumpy ones. Hands up again, the grumpy ones. Now, I notice that we've got His Excellency in there, so I've not actually had a text message from him, but I'm waiting to see if it's true. It's a different language. The average age of a person who is looking to take advantage is much younger than you think. They're starting at the age of 15. 15-year-old people are seeking to take advantage of older people, and they speak a different language to what we do. So if you think about where you're quite polite, I have students at the university who say things such as, where is the lecture? Spelt W-A-R-E-L-E-C-H-A. Not a ringing endorsement of their English skills, but sometimes they're international students. Nevertheless, there's a certain lack of decorum in the way that they communicate, and there's a certain genuine effort on your part to be polite. And so that gives us away. It says, okay, this person's a little bit older, they might not be quite so savvy in technology. It's an interesting starting point. People always ask, how do they target me? There's some hints on why that happens. I want to come through a couple of frequently asked questions. People always ask, is PayPal safe? Does anyone wonder about PayPal? Anyone use PayPal? So PayPal is one of the safest known methods of sending money to someone else such that they don't get to see your name or your credit card number. They just get the money. So that's fantastically good news. Please use PayPal. But, enormous but, quite often we receive emails saying to us, your PayPal account needs to be updated. There is something to review. Those are scam emails. And so please don't send them. The only way you should update your PayPal is on the day you wish to use it, where you go into PayPal, under whatever PayPal address you have. You should never click something into an email, never hit something that's written in blue, that looks as if it's underscored, that takes you to what they are wanting you to believe is the PayPal website, because it may not in fact be that PayPal website. You go there your own method. And that's the advice for everything. Any kind of scam, whether it's a call, an email or anything, if you're not sure, you ring the bank direct. You don't turn to the person that you thought was asking you about doing something. If you're not sure about whether you should pay a bill, go to the place that you pay the bills. Don't go anywhere else. Other questions I have are, can I block a call? Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but sometimes you get calls lately that come from different countries. Have you seen ones? Anyone had one from Lithuania or Estonia or Turkmenistan? Or anyone had one of those? It's important to recognise that things have changed, and media communications now allow people to do what's called spoofing. They're spoofing different. So in other words, they're pretending to be a different phone number. Do you know before you'd look at your mobile phone and it would say 02 and you say that phone call's from Sydney? That's not the case. 02 should be Sydney because that's the older way that we would characterise, just as 03 was for Victoria, 02 was for New South Wales, 07 for Queensland and so on. But anybody who's got a little bit of technology now can jump onto the dark web or other places and buy phone numbers. And we can buy them in blocks of 100. So we buy 100 phone numbers and I can call each one of you once for a very small amount of money. I can't make multiple calls, but I can call you once and I can pretend to be someone from Turkmenistan or someone from London or someone. And so if you come, you might see them on your phone come up and they have a big number and it says the name of the country and you go, should I answer this? The short answer is no. Don't answer them. Unless, in fact, you do know someone from Turkmenistan and you're expecting a call, in which case, by all means, quickly get it to save the charges. But for the most part, don't answer them. If you're not sure about a number, don't answer it. Very simple advice. The other question I get is, can I block calls? Can I block text messages? And the answer is you can block numbers that repeatedly send to you. However, much of our phone technology has a sort of a limit. So I use an iPhone. An iPhone allows me to have 50 blocked calls. And when I hit blocked call number 51, number 1 unblocks. So 52, number 2 unblocks. And so choose your blocking, be a bit more, show some discretion rather than simply blocking every number because you'll soon run out of space. Similarly, other brands, I just used Apple, but there are Samsungs. Some of them have 50, some of them have 30. It's a slippery slope. Much better to try and find some other way out of it. And so where can I go to report a scam? Well, there are lots of places we're launching. Some of you have got the various material you will have picked up here. So it's really important that you do tell someone about a scam. Does it mean that we catch every single criminal? Does the police suddenly jump to and drive out to your house? There's one squad and there's millions of us. So the answer is that doesn't always work. But by reporting it, we can see trends, and by see trends, people can take reactions and they can move. And that's really important. So please, wherever possible, follow the directions that you're given today about reporting scams. It's an important part about what we do. And if you're ever unsure, ask COTA, because COTA know exactly where to direct you. All right, there's 3 main ways in which criminals act: banking, shopping, and appointments. And banking, I'm going to leave that for a bit because we've got a specialist speaker on banking, except to say, hands up those people who've got an online bank account. All right, now I can see in the audience a number of people who've got their arms crossed with the traditional, no, not me, I'm not having anything to do with that online mumbo jumbo. I will give you one parting thought. All your banking transactions, all of our banking transactions are now online transactions. So even if you don't have an online account or you're staying away from them, all your transactions are online. It's an important thing. The next thing is shopping. Who's buying anything online? Has anyone been buying things online? What sort of things are we buying online? Is anyone buying shoes? Anyone? That's a mystery to me. But I have a partner that likes to buy shoes. I think she likes the packages getting delivered at the door. Does anyone like packages at the door? Yes. So there's a bit of a match here. So it's important, though, when you're buying something online, particularly if you're buying something of value, but if you're buying something online, you are taking a step into an area where you're committing to send some money from your phone, perhaps, or from your computer or someone. And there's that moment, there's a moment of danger. So I want to get technical for a moment, just explain. When you're, let's say things are opening up and you're flying to Tasmania, you're going to catch a flight. Anyone want to fly somewhere? Keen to? Okay, well, when it opens up, we're off to Tasmania. And we're looking for airline tickets, and we might end up on Qantas. So you can imagine the Qantas site, www.qantas.com.au. Correct? Okay. But in actual fact, there's a bit before that. There's a little bit that says http:// then the www.qantas.com.au. So those bits in the beginning are the hypertext protocol. You don't need to know that, except it just helps to address things in the right way. When you're on the website, you're looking at the flights, you've selected the flight, and you're getting to the part where you're going to buy the ticket. At that moment, your website has a very subtle change because the website now goes to the page where you put in your credit card or your debit card. It's called a payment gateway, and it's very important. It's the part where they get the money from you, and it's the part where you're going to divulge the number or the name of your account, so it's really important. At that point, you must look up and have a look and see, does it say HTTPS? That letter S means that this is a secure web connection between you and, say, in this case I'm using the example of Qantas. You can of course buy airline tickets to other ones. And that's important, that payment gateway. It's effectively Qantas reaching out and shaking hands with you saying, I'm going to look after your transaction. I'm going to keep it secure. And then further down the line, you might see a little padlock. Has anyone ever seen the little padlocks on the same line? Those padlocks are further, that's what we call a four-way kind of a handshake between you, Qantas in this case, Visa and MasterCard, all guaranteeing to look after things. So please look for that. Sometimes you don't see the HTTPS. Sometimes it does not there. And if you're doing things from an insecure location, sometimes if you're doing things from home, you've got your home internet and that should be secured by your own passwords. I hope they are, and that's the way to go. But if you made the transaction from a library, a public library, libraries are great places to look for information, but they're not great places to pay bills because you may be on someone else's not so secure network. We refer to these things as pancake networks and so on. So just something there. Just to be sure, look for those things. And if you're not sure, revert to the things that you know work. Because as His Excellency mentioned, once you've sent money overseas and it's gone into a crook's hands, it's impossible to get it back once it's left the borders. The third one is appointments. You've now realised in the last 2 years with coronavirus that we're using mobiles more and more. Would that be fair? We're using mobiles? Okay. And on mobiles, we have SMS messages that we have to learn to trust. So, for example, I'm going to the doctor's tomorrow, and I got an SMS message that says, are you turning up to my appointment? Type Y for yes, N for no. Has anyone had one of those? Okay, you're being told to trust that. So, who sent you the SMS message? I can assure you in my case, it wasn't the doctor that sent me that SMS message. I do not have my doctor, my GP's mobile phone number. He's not going to give it to me. I have someone else's, and that's okay. And I'm going to trust this because I'd made the appointment and I know it's true. But what about other SMS messages? How do you know how to trust an SMS message? I'm going to show you some shortly and go through that very quickly. Now, there is a thought, a notion that perhaps some people are easy pickings and older people are a bit easier to take advantage of. Would that be true? Is that true? There are basically two kinds of scam that take place on a phone. There's either the ones where they hit you with a stick, or they're nasty to you, or there's the ones where they offer you a carrot. One of the most famous ones is the Telstra phone scam. And by the way, I say Telstra, not to denigrate Telstra, they do a wonderful job, I use them. But to say that they're one of the biggest, and so they have this. But there's an Optus version of this scam, there's a City of Perth version, there is a Australia Post version, a DHL parcel delivery version, many options. A lady will call you up and say, by example, hello, it's Doreen here calling from Telstra to let you know that you're $8.58 overdue on your telephone bill. Now, it's a courtesy call, there's no problem. Please, as soon as possible, please pay that wherever you pay that bill. So if you pay it online, please pay it online. If you pay it at the post office, please pay it at the post office. If you pay it at the Telstra shop, please pay it there. And she's giving you the confidence, saying, I'm not after any money. She is a scammer, but this is the trick that they use. They make sure that they reassure you. She then does something very, very clever. She talks to you for 5 minutes. She talks to you and she gains your confidence by saying things that massage your ego, whatever you say. If you like the current Premier, then she likes the current Premier. If you think the Eagles football team's a magnificent football team, and they might be, then she'll agree with that. Whatever you say, she'll agree with, and you'll have the most pleasant conversation. Think of the conversations you have at home. Are they always that way? Does your partner always agree with you? This person will agree with everything. It's a confidence trick and it makes you feel as if you're on top of the world. And they'll do it for about 5 minutes. And during that time, you start to like them a lot. And if you're like me and you're a bit lonely, you don't mind having a chat. And that's part of the scam. Because at the end of 5 minutes, she suddenly gets flustered and she's going, oh gosh, oh, I'm meant to have called all these other people. Oh, but you've been so nice to me. I'm so glad to have met you. You're such a wonderful person. You're like a soulmate. Oh, but I've got to ring these people. Oh, I'm going to be in trouble. I'm going to lose my job. In that time, she's convincing you to feel guilty for her. It's a very clever trick. And because if you've enjoyed the first 5 minutes, you're inclined to agree and say, look, I'll help you out if I can, in your mind. And then she hits the key phrase. She says, look, how about if you give me your credit card number, I'll put this $8.58 through, and then, my boss, I'll be off the hook. Do you know that about 1 in 5 people over the age of 65 falls for that trick? It's a very common trick, and there's loads of different versions of that, whether it's Optus or Telstra, the various different, any of the utilities, power, gas, any of those sorts of things, parcel deliveries. It's a common scam. So please take note when someone's being too nice to you. Similarly, if someone rings you up from a utility in the first place, and I don't mean to denigrate Telstra again, but when was the last time Telstra were nice to you? Because it doesn't often happen that way. They're a commercial business and they're in business. And you should understand, they're the warning signs that you're given, but sometimes we ignore them because we like a chat. The other version, of course, the ones that we don't like, is the telephone scams where someone rings up with a threat. And the common threats, often it's usually a man who gives a threat, because I think men sound like they have a voice of authority and they've got a very deep voice. And they will say, you might have heard some of the anyone had a call like that on the telephone? Yes. Does anyone have an answering machine at home? Because a lot of the current scams are aimed at people who have answering machines, particularly because you think that you're going to weed out everyone. And they will send messages that if you play them back, so for example, say, hello, this is the tax department. You owe a certain amount of money, $358. Most of you, of course, by the way, the tax department doesn't do this. So if you ever get a call, you know it's a scam. But nevertheless, it can be confronting, particularly when you're playing it back from an answering machine. Person with a deep voice, hello. And they'll have threats. We're going to come to your house, is one of the threats that's often heard on the scam things. No one wants to hear that someone's coming to your house. Then they'll say, we're going to seize goods. No one wants goods seized. That doesn't sound very good. And so these are the sorts of threatening language which people use. And quite often, people will then be convinced, say, look, I better do something about this. If you have it on an answering machine, I've often found that people play it back 3, 4, 5 times and then convince themselves, just because it sounds threatening, to immediately go to and follow the instructions, which often is to go to the post office and buy some iTunes cards. Anyone ever bought an iTunes card? It's a way scammers get you to convert money into what's called a value transfer. It's a card, so if you buy an iTunes card, your grandkids will love them, because they can use iTunes to update their gaming and have all sorts of fun. So they're good Christmas stocking fillers. But an iTunes card is also a way in which a scammer can get money. You simply tell them, you scratch, like you'd scratch a lottery ticket, you scratch the scratchy part, gives you a number, and then the person on the other end can redeem the value of that iTunes card. If you go to the post office and you try and buy 5 or 6 iTunes cards, the post office person will ask you, are you sure you're not paying a bill or trying to pay some scammer some money? So that's an important thing to look for. There is this other thought that some of us are not very good at computing, and many of you said you hadn't done computing when you were in primary school. So I want to pick up on that. Are we getting any better at understanding things? Technology is getting easier, but there's a lot more of it. And so where do you turn to? Where do you go? The most important thing is to stick with groups of things that you do. I'm not asking you to go to university and enrol in a 3-year undergraduate course in computer science, unless you want to. But I don't think that's the way you want to go. So the internet can be useful. I often find YouTube is a great place to learn new things, tiny bits, because these days information about learning technology is done in what we call snackable, bite-sized bits. Find the YouTube clip that tells you how to do something in 2 minutes. Don't find the one that goes in 2 hours. And learn in 2 minutes how to send an email, how to change your passwords, all of those sorts of things. They're quite easy to do. Now, I've told you that you're not, that some of you are way too polite, and there's a few grumpy people, so that's important. But I didn't tell you what the lady had said on the end of that email that I read out about. The lady had said, kindly, please stop sending anything else. At the end of it, she didn't just say Joan Smith, Victoria Park. She actually put her mobile phone number, and she put, I'm the vice president of the bowling club, and she gave everything away, almost by putting and I keep a little key underneath my pot plant on the right-hand side of it. She didn't do that, but she gives all this information away. We give too much information away, and we don't mean to. Going back to Facebook, people sometimes find that other people give away information for you. I found that my son had over 100 pictures of him on Facebook. He didn't have a Facebook account. I'd never put them up. How did they come from? And there was him, my son, standing next to Johnny, who was another fellow soccer player. Johnny's mum took Johnny's picture and included my son's picture in with that and post it on Facebook. And suddenly, even without knowing it, you have a Facebook presence. Now, there's nothing we can do about that. We're not supposed to sidle someone out individually and take their photo and put it up. But when it's in a company of others, sometimes we get caught up. The internet sees everything. It drags and scrapes every bit of information. So please be aware of that. So I want to just go through a couple of things, because COVID's brought out one particular emerging trend that I want to touch base on. So we do things differently from a couple of years ago. We do a lot more online shopping. And if you don't believe that, imagine the poor people who've just come out of 200 days of lockdown in Victoria and New South Wales who didn't get to go to Woolworths or Coles, who actually had to order their shopping online and have it delivered to their door. That's the sort of stuff we've been going through. We haven't been going to the bank as much. We haven't been going to church. We've been learning how to do online. I'm told that with people over the 65, the sheer number of people who now do much more online banking, either from a computer or from a mobile device, has dramatically risen. When we go to the doctor, it's a different experience. We get the yes, no, are you okay? Do you have coronavirus? Are you coming in? Now, I remember back in April last year when we were in that emerging lockdown part, I actually met with my GP in a car park because that was supposed to be safer. So we've come a long way since then. We don't go out as much, although you're here today, thank you. We're not supposed to shake hands as quite as freely, and we knock elbows and bump fists. We certainly use our credit cards a lot more, and the most important thing is we use mobile phones more than anything else. So I've got a question for you. Which is the most important piece of ID? Is it your passport or is it your mobile phone? Most people would say it's my passport. It's not. Are you travelling anywhere right now? Are you whipping out the passport every day? In fact, if I'm a cyber crook and I break into your house, I'm going to step over your passport to get to your mobile phone. Because once I've got your mobile phone, I have really important ID. I can, for example, some of you may have sent a message or tried to enter into a website or tried to enter in something, and it said, we're going to check this by sending you a 6-digit number on your phone, and then you have to enter the number. Has anyone ever had to do that? It's called multi-factor authentication, to guarantee it's really you. So if I've stolen your phone, then it's not you, it's me. And if I'm a cyber crook, then I can start to access bank accounts, I can start to access superannuation accounts, I can access all of the other different things you may have joined into that you thought were secure because you had a password. But now, even with your phone, even with the password and if I have your mobile phone, I can change your password. I can change it to what I want it to be and lock you out. So your mobile phone needs to be looked after. So if you look at, if we had police in the room, they would tell us to look after the physical side. When you go shopping and you're leaning over to check the oranges or the apples, don't have your mobile phone in your handbag where people can reach in and grab it. Zip it up. Don't leave your phone out. A lot of mobile phones are stolen, and it contributes greatly to this. Sometimes we just leave them behind. Now, I want to talk about what we're doing now in terms of the way we trust our phone. Because if you're like my son gets to a phone and he uses thumbs. He's a speedster. But if you're like me, it's one letter at a time. Does anyone have that problem? Yes, okay. And a quick disclosure, I have fat fingers. And that doesn't help because on a tiny phone, I sometimes hit the wrong buttons. Does anyone else do that, or am I the only person? Thank you. Oh, that's good. All right. So, good to know I'm not the only one. We get different text messages, and it's expected that we trust them. So here's an example on the screens, if you have a look, and I apologise for the tiny writing. This one's from WA Health, and it says, this is from last year, saying, contact with confirmed novel coronavirus, your child must continue to isolate. So we'd gone in and we'd given our son a test for coronavirus. And here's the important part. See the bits in blue? The bits in blue will take you to the website. In this case, it'll take you to the Healthy WA Gov website, which is a real website which has useful information. If my fat finger hits it, whether accidentally or deliberately, it'll take me straight to there. And the website on your phone will look crisp and clear. Now, if I'm a fraudster, I can make you go touch on that and go to a fake website, which will also look crisp and clear. Not much fakery happening in the WA Health, but nevertheless. So this is a real one. This is a trusted one. My question to you is, how do you know it's trusted? In this case, I felt it was trusted because we'd just done a coronavirus test and we were expecting it to come. Does that sound fair? And then there's a second part. You can see there's actually two messages. So the bit where there's a gap, the response saying, thank you for presenting as part of the test, coronavirus was not detected. And then there's more information again, another section in blue that you can tap on and go to, which has information. Now, a quick disclosure, I like pizza. This is a text message from a pizza shop, Crust Pizza. Now, and in it, it has some information which says, okay, Crust Pizza's got a special today. Click here, you can get the special. My question to you is, and I did order a pizza, okay, so don't tell my wife. I ordered a pizza. Who sent that text message? Is there someone called Mr. Crust Pizza? Was it the manager of the store? No, as I found out. It was a 15-year-old boy sitting in the back who was folding up boxes, sending out text messages to try and get people to do that. It can be anybody with a mobile phone. And so how do you get that? Well, it's quite easy. It's a matter of sending a text message that says it's Crust Pizza. And the moment I see health department, I trust it. If I see, in my case, my doctor's name, I trust it. And in some small way, I see Crust Pizza and I go, well, I trust it, because it looks like it says pizza. If you're not sure about Crust Pizza as a trusted brand, if you think of the really big brands like the Woolworths and the BPs and so on, these are brands that are beyond concern. Those sorts of names are what's used in scams. You may have had scam messages in the past saying you'd won $500 worth of groceries from Woolworths. Has anyone had one of those? Or from Coles? Why do they use these names? Because it's not from Woolworths, the scam ones. They like to use a name which is trusted. That circle of trust, that little bit that convinces you that everything's okay. So here's one from NAB Notifier. Please confirm that your billing information, and I'm with this bank, right? Your billing information to avoid service suspension. Fill in this form. Please don't fill in that form. Because if you touch that, again, you could hit it accidentally. It will take you to a place that looks just like NAB. It does. And that's part of the problem. So this new version, if you can think back to when you were looking at things on your computer, you could always take your mouse over and drag it over to the web address and hover your mouse over there, and it would reveal if there was a proxy address, the real address. If it was a fake website, you could sort of see that. And in fact, there's quite a bit of antivirus that will pick up emails from fake providers, which is really good. Harder and harder to do on text messages. It's the new frontier, and we've changed the rules in which we allow this to happen since coronavirus. This is a fake one. My question to you is, how do you tell the fake ones from the real ones? So here's one which is interesting. It came from Royal Perth, RPBG, outpatient advice, etc., etc. You attended a clinic. And so this one, there's no way of knowing, again, who sent that. It's just, in this case, it just says mobile phone number, and it just has the number. How do I know who that is? It's one of those no reply ones, so I can't ring them up and say, are you really from Royal Perth? Or these are troubling things now. It's getting harder to know what to trust on the text message, the SMS side. And as I said to you, of course, before, the doctor's one, we've all had the doctor or the dentist, or perhaps even if you get your dog, put your dog in to have your dog groomed, they all have the yes, no, are you attending? Here's one which I thought was interesting. It came from Woolworths. And the first two messages are real, and the last one's a scam. It all comes up on my phone as the same place. It just says Woolworths. And the first two are about one of those things that we were trying in order to pick up your groceries without, the click and collect. You've heard of that, where you can drive up, the man comes out, puts the groceries in your car and you drive off. Love it. So that's fantastic. The first two are real. The third one, congratulations, on September 23rd, you participated in a survey lottery competition. I can't remember doing that. And you finished third. See what you won. And then you click onto the blue part, takes you to a website, and it's a fake website. You have to put in some bank details. It allows you to get harvest a lot of information from you, and then they start to really take advantage. Those are the scams. That's the tough bit. And of course, if I'd already used the first two for my click and collect, I might trust the third. And unlike this particular slide that you're looking at now, which tells me clearly that the first two are in green, so they're good, and that the third one is a scam, so it's red, there will be no colour coding on your messages. You won't know which one is which. So it's just an important thing to remember. The best way of working these things out is up here, all right? Make it purpose-driven. If you're buying things online, it's for the purpose you bought it. If you're picking something up, then it's for that purpose. If you're going to the doctor, it's for that purpose. The moment something comes into it about being a freebie, And remember, these days, no longer do people ask for thousands. They say, oh, you've won thousands and thousands of dollars. They've often said you've won third prize. You know, you've won a cup of coffee. The best scam I've heard in the last year was the cup of coffee scam that worked out at the Midland Centre Point shopping centre, which got lots of people who all they did was win a cup of coffee for a non-existent cafe, but they gave away lots of their information about their own personal information, name and address and so on. Email harvesting, just harvesting your information. Now here's one that I find interesting because, as I said before, we're all very polite in this room because we came from a generation where you had to be polite. But the language of people today is different. My son recently did this to me. Anyone know what that is? So the first part is the letter W for what, and this is the E bit for ever. He was giving me the old flick off, whatever, right? It's a bit rude, but it's a little bit more polite than what we used to do with one finger. So, but this is the new language. My problem is that we've abbreviated everything and we've shortened everything. I'm not really sure what some of these things mean. So now if we look at this particular text message, it says gov. And I'm going, gov? Gov who? Is it WA government? Is it the federal government? Is it McGovern, the Eagles football player, wishing me luck? I don't know what gov is because we've shortened things and we're using a different language. It's not quite the same. So part of this is kind of, it's going to be hard to get with the lingo when you're a couple of years beyond the lingo. Now, I'm sure you know the lingo from things last century, but not many of you know the whatevers, and there's a whole language of that, right? There's a whole language that goes behind that. And I'm not here to tell you about it because I'm not an expert either. It's dangerous because in this case, again, this is a scam message which takes you to a fake website. It looks like it's coronavirus, it's a safety line systems thing, but actually it's just trying to get your Medicare number and try and scam you out of some health details. So I recognise this is hard to do. If you're not sure, don't touch on it. You don't have to. There's always help on hand, and sometimes you have to talk through these things. I think the single biggest thing is not that we get scammed, it's actually being able to detect when someone is trying to scam you, to people who actually use your age against you. And these are the sorts of things I'm showing today. Now, when we see something like that, I get excited. I know you don't, but I go, wow, virus detected. I live for this stuff. Because that's actually a sign that my antivirus is working. So if it comes up on your computer and it says virus detected, that's fantastic. I really want to hear that. I know you don't, but to me it means I'm protected, my antivirus is working, everything's great. So in this case, and can I just check, how many people have got antivirus on their computers at home? Okay, right, so that's fantastic, really good. This one says we've detected a thing called a Trojan. Now you would have heard in history about a Trojan horse. Trojans are one of the most common, and you'll hear them often in banking scams and other things. Trojans basically release something horrible onto your system, just like the historical Trojan horse would release soldiers. And it sits on your system. The most common Trojan is a thing called a keylogger. It's a particular kind of piece of malware that logs your keystrokes. So imagine I'm back at the Qantas and I'm buying my airline ticket and I'm typing in David Cook and I'm putting in MasterCard and I put 521575. I won't tell you the rest because I don't trust you. But I put all that information in. This keylogger program then takes that name, takes that account number, takes the password or whatever's put in and sends it to the crook. And the cyber crook now can share my bank account with me, or he can share my credit card with me and so on. These are the sorts of things that we want to protect. And there are lots of clever ways. You'll see banks have got clever ways of making sure that you don't get struck by a keylogger program. But nevertheless, it's a very common thing, and it helps crooks to find out your password. You'll notice on some of your laptops or computers it says, do you want to save this password? Anyone seen that? The lazy button. Well, it should be named the yes, I do want to be scammed, please click here. Don't do that. Don't push that. You do have another computer in the house, and it's the one up here. This one. It's the most important one. It's the one you were born with, and I want you to use that if possible. So that's what you do. By the way, before we finish this, most of you said, yes, you've got antivirus on your computer. Most of you said you might be doing some online banking, and you might do banking from your tablet or your phone. Does anyone do that, phone banking? Banking from different places. How many of you have you got virus detection on your phone? And I suspect that's only a few of you. This is one of the new emerging concepts. You might want to do that. So having a virus protection on your phone, if you're going to use your phone to transfer money to buy goods online, to buy things as they come up. That's one of the things to keep in mind. So lastly, I want to round up on passwords, because we started by saying sometimes we have too many of them. You know? Now, I haven't written down a password in 10 years. How do I do that? Am I a genius? No. I don't use a password. I use a passphrase. That is a phrase, and I carve it up into different passwords. I'll give you an example. Years ago, I was studying electronic engineering, and I couldn't remember... Any engineers in the room? No, a few, thank you. I could never remember the different colour code on all the wiring. There was the wiring back in, this is in the 80s, and you had to remember this wire over this wire and so on. There was a whole colour code. It was called the Resistor colour code. And so I came up with this particular phrase. It was called, "Bye-bye, Rosie, off you go, Birmingham via Great Western." Doesn't mean anything, by the way. There is no train Birmingham via Great Western. And this helped me. I used the first letter of each word. "Bye-bye, Rosie, off you go, Birmingham via Great Western." And I remember the numbers, the colours for my resistors. "Bye-bye, Rosie" was black, brown, red. "Off you go," orange, yellow, green. Birmingham via Great Western was blue, violet, grey, white. And I passed my electronic engineering exam. So some people have had other ones like that with rude words in them, but this is the clean version. So that's it. Now, you don't have to remember any of the stuff about the colours and the resistors and so on, but that phrase has stuck in my mind. I've had it for 40 years up here. "Bye-bye, Rosie, off you go, Birmingham via Great Western." For the last 10 years, I used it as a passphrase. And so I carved it up. The first part, "Bye-bye, Rosie." The second part, "Off you go." The third part, Birmingham. The fourth part, via Great Western. 4 passwords, 1 sentence. I only had to remember the 1 sentence. Carried it around with my head wherever I went. And that was very clever. And so what I do is, rather than having different passwords for different things, I change all of my passwords to the same password, and I change the password regularly. So let's say for you, every 6 months, you might be "Bye-bye, Rosie." Please don't use my passphrase, and I will be changing my passphrase immediately after I get off this lectern, I can tell you, I won't be. So you can have one, and often you find that you have to have different numbers and things after passwords. So so it wasn't just "bye-bye." I'd take a number. Please don't use the number 1, because everyone uses 1. Okay, so I made to keep it simple for you. "Bye-bye, Rosie 2, exclamation mark. Capital for the first letter, capital B. "Bye-bye, Rosie 2, exclamation mark. Second password, "Off you go 4, exclamation mark. Third password, "Birmingham 6, exclamation mark. Fourth one, "Via Great Western 8, exclamation mark." Now, this is a simplified version of whatever phrase you come up with. Pick something that you used in the past. So don't have a current one. We found, for example, back in 2018, lots of people had the password "Eagles 2018. Now, one of the problems with those kind of passwords, doesn't matter whether you don't like the Eagles or not, one of the problems with that password is many people then used a following password the following year. Can you guess what it was? Eagles 2019. And one of the problems we have with passwords is what we call derivative passwords. That is, when you get asked to change your password, sometimes you just add something extra on it. Does anyone do that? Hands up. Lots of people change that, and so that's a very dangerous thing to do. A passphrase is a fresh thing, where if you think about my phrase, none of the different passwords have anything to do with each other, so that's useful. The important thing is to pick something that's in your head, and we all have them. We call them mnemonics. So, for example, if I started off one particular mnemonic, I might say, 30 days have September, all the rest have except... All right. Now, I didn't tell you that. It was already in your head. It's a mnemonic. It's stuck there. Don't use that phrase because we've just said it out to everyone else. But it's exactly that kind of thing, a phrase that's in your head, not something recent. Don't have something in the last few years. Something from last century is the perfect phrase because it's in here and it's been here for years. And even if you get old and senile and you forget things and so on, those are the sorts of things you hang on to. We know that. So I suggest, whatever it is, whatever your passphrase is, find your passphrase. If you're not sure, for those of you who are religious, perhaps your favourite piece of scripture. For those of you who are musical, you might have the name of your favourite song or your favourite line of poetry, okay? Or perhaps think back, when you had your first kiss. What was the music playing or the dance that you were dancing to? Those sorts of things tend to stick in your mind. I know they do for me. Whatever you do, pick a passphrase that's yours. carve it up, and take all of the other things you've probably got, which is a jumble of passwords that you've got written on bits of paper and stuck in your pocket or in the back of your wallet or stuck to the side of your computer or in a drawer, or any of those terrible places. Get rid of that and put it into the computer that you were born with, which is this fella up here. And you'll be much, much safer. That's my message for you. A passphrase, and if you're not, don't believe me, please go to the www.cyber.gov site and look up there. They'll also tell you the current best practice is a passphrase. That way you don't write it down. You've got 4 passwords, and you can carve it up to more than 4. You stick with 4. You could make it 5 or 6 if it's a long phrase, and you won't get into trouble. Because I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes you put the wrong password in, and you have to jig it. If you do it 3 times, it blocks you out, and then you've got to come up with something else. This is a way around all of that. I hope you've enjoyed listening to me. Thank you very much. Thanks, Christine.
Wow, that kind of makes it sound easy, doesn't it? Anyway, that's what we all need to be able to understand, and what a great idea that is about passphrases, because I was guilty of everything David just talked about there. We're now going to hear from Bank West, and I'm going to invite Audrey up to the stage. So Audrey Pagemon is the Executive Manager of Fraud Management Services with Bank West. So she took up her current role in March 2020, and she leads a 24/7, that's 24 hours a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, operational team responsible for scams and fraud detection and management across digital, credit and debit cards, branches, lending applications and general banking. So she is the Bank West expert. So Audrey, please welcome to the stage.
Thank you for that kind introduction. It is such a great honour to be partnering with COTA today to raise awareness about scams and increase dialogue. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land that we meet, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Bank West has been part of the fabric of WA for 125 years, and we are committed to helping communities and customers stay safe and secure. My team, as mentioned, spend their entire time protecting customers from falling victim to scams. But unfortunately, they do fall victim to scams, and we also spend time supporting them through that process. I'm here today to talk about scams from Bank West's perspective, some tips that you can take in addition to what Dr. Cook's provided, and also give you some resources of where to go to and what to do once we're finished here today. But more than that, I'm also the daughter of an 85-year-old father and a 78-year-old, I hope she doesn't mind me saying, divulging that, mother. And so I spend a lot of time talking with them about scams. And I have received the frantic call from my father, who has handed over his credit card details to buy some solar panel batteries that apparently he really needed to buy. So I know what it's like. So let's talk scams. So I'd like you to think about what have you done, and I know we've talked some examples today, but you receive a wonderful call from someone who's very friendly, saying that you've got a problem with your NBN or your phone line and they're here to help. All you have to do is let them have access to your computer. Or you get that text message saying that you've just purchased a $5,000 Canon camera from AMZ, a text. Or, as Dr. Cook mentioned, it's most likely a male voice, very terse and very strongly worded, saying, you have outstanding fines to pay, and if you don't pay them immediately, the AFP or the police will be at your door immediately. And how about that text that we get that we've all won the lottery and there's some lucky prize that we can claim? Who in this room has received one of those messages? Yeah, quite a few of us. Well, both my parents have experienced that, and many of us in the room and many of those listening on this stream today would have been targeted by a scammer. And they will go to every length to try and get hold of our money, our personal details and our banking details. They will try fear, they will try trickery, they'll try to confuse us, and they'll even try charm to get what they want. They're very sneaky. An important point I really would like to highlight, and as we've talked today, in many of the cases that we're seeing, yes, older Australians are being targeted and are overrepresented in terms of being targeted, but also falling victim to scams. And as we've talked, there's obvious reasons for that. Part of that's about connection, about trust, but it's also about the challenges that we have today with the ever-changing complexity of IT and technology that seems to be changing on a daily basis. And I too am in the category of the old coder, so I know how hard it is even for me to keep up to date with the technology. But it's really important to know that older Australians aren't alone. And I want to also re-emphasise that we're not talking about pointing the finger at older Australians, because it's just important that we're all vigilant and aware that older Australians are being targeted. However, whenever I go to a barbecue or a dinner and someone finds out what I do for a living, the conversation can last for hours on this topic about scams. So we end up talking about the experiences that people have had, what their friends and family, and the really sophisticated ways that they're being tricked into the scam, and some people actually admitting to the fact that they've actually fallen victim to a scam. So what's really important is that we're all talking about these experiences with our friends and family, because we really need to alert everybody about the tricks that are being played and what they're trying to do to try and get our money. So as I said, and as we've heard today, the scammers are using the most sophisticated methods in terms of trying to scam us, and are often trying to present themselves as genuine companies. It can happen to anyone. They'll send texts and calls that make it appear that it's a genuine company, and they'll even try and have some information and put you at ease to say that they are the genuine representatives, as Dr. Cook mentioned earlier in his presentation. Even the international calls can appear to be local calls, which I find the most frightening. And so once they have your attention, it's that charm, it's that little questions, and before we know it, they're asking us to be more specific and take actions. And sometimes it's handing over our banking details, sometimes it's that SMS code, and sometimes they're even asking us to go to the bank and withdraw money. They'll even tell you what to say to the bank if you're asked questions. And they'll even convince you not to tell anyone, not your family and friends. And sometimes that's an or else you'll suffer some consequences. So it's really easy for anyone to fall victim to a scam, because often we're put under time pressure, we're really rushed a lot of the time, and they'll try and also convince you, that we're also a trusting community and want to do the right thing. It can happen to anyone, and there is no shame. So at Bank West, you can see with the figures up here, last year alone in 12 months, we received 11,500 calls, and over $16.5 million was at risk. Unfortunately, less than half of this could be recovered, which is really awful. And as mentioned before, the Australian community has lost $225 million this year so far. So we all need to be aware about scams and talk about scams. I just want to highlight those numbers, 11,500 calls and $16.5 million just from Bank West. I just wanted to highlight that, the sheer volume of what we're seeing. And getting caught in a scam is nothing to be embarrassed about, because the most effective weapon that these scammers are using is the hesitation of victims to talk about their experiences or even seek help, and it's often out of embarrassment. People are worried that they'll appear silly or really embarrassed with their friends and family. However, everyone in these numbers should know that victims are not alone. And it's important to remember that these scammers are not easy to spot amateurs. These criminals are professional at what they do. Like, I wake up every morning, I go to work, I do the best job that I can, and I get paid. The thing is that scammers are doing exactly the same thing, but the only difference is my job is legal. So they wake up every morning and they're developing increasingly sophisticated methods and sneaky ways to prey on our most fundamental human needs and our responses. So that's why this year's theme of Scams Awareness Week is Let's Talk Scams. If you've been scammed, there's no reason to feel ashamed or silly, like you're the only one that this has happened to. Far from it. But what the silence of the victims does is give these scammers a secrecy to continue operating and targeting our friends and family. So the best way that we can guard against them and protect ourselves is to talk to each other. So when something doesn't seem right, it's too good to be true. I know they're tried and tested old sayings, but if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And if you're unsure, then talk to someone that you trust. So, how can we stay safe? As I said, it's really important we talk about it and share stories with everyone. The other piece is don't feel rushed into making a payment, especially late in the day. Never reveal, and I think it's really good tips in terms of Facebook and your online social media, but it's also especially important about banking details, your passport or driver's license or date of birth, Medicare card, or importantly, your SMS code, password or passphrase, or the SMS code. Never click on any unsolicited emails or texts. And what we often say is contact the company directly using a number that has been published on a website or a phone book that you can validate and verify independently. And finally, as mentioned earlier today, just delete those messages or texts. So, what are some helpful resources? So today we will be providing you with the Bank West Safe and Savvy Guide, which is an amazing guide on how to protect you from fraud, scams, and financial abuse. And for those customers who couldn't be here today, this is available on the Bank West website, available to anyone. So you don't have to be a Bank West customer to access these vital resources. The other great resource is the ACCC Little Book of Scams, which has amazing tips of how you can stay safe and how you can identify scams before you actually start becoming a victim. So I'd like to now ask who feels better armed in what to do in terms of Safe and Savvy Guide. So next time when you get that call or that rush to make a payment or that request to remotely access into your device, hopefully you've now got the tips and tricks and you've got the resources available to you to be able to prevent from falling victim to a scam. And please share this with your friends and family who couldn't be here today. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, so that concludes the formal proceedings, I guess, for this morning. We have morning tea for you, and as Audrey mentioned, we have some resources for you. So as you leave today, our teams will be providing you with a bag that has that Safe and Savvy guide in it, as well as the Little Black Book of Scams, some of the COTA resources and some flyers. So you'll be provided with one of those as you leave. Our cyber security experts will be on hand during morning tea, and it's a good opportunity for us to all have a chat and share some of our stories. To those of you who are joining us via the live stream or looking at the recording, thank you for joining us, and please, we hope that you can stay safe from these hideous scammers who are taking advantage of us. And as David said, because we are all brought up to be friendly and polite and respond to questions that were asked, we probably need to rethink that. But anyway, thank you, Governor, for joining us this morning. It's a pleasure to have you here. And good morning, everyone, and please join us for morning tea. Thank you.